Does beauty matter? Here's my artist's defense. I'm talking about beauty. How controversial can it be? But I have a feeling this relates to you more than you might think, so I'd be impressed if you didn't have some opinions I'd appreciate in the comments. I'll be painting someone I love very much while we talk. Most of my belongings are packed as I move in under a week, so this piece is a 5x7" MDF board, and I'll be working on it first with a transfer drawing, basically using pencil to retrace his face onto the board, and then I'll work in acrylic paint with a tiny bit of touch-ups and varnishing off camera at the end. Beauty is a huge topic. It's found in varied places and carries different meaning to everyone. How I think of it has evolved many times. What I consider beautiful, what indicators signal it, where I look for and cultivate it, whether it brings me value or skepticism. Beauty can be evaluated and indulged in both helpful and harmful ways. And I think that's in part why it stirs debate. In times where pursuit of beauty feels like a privilege and reminder of disparity, its value becomes even more questionable. I think about Bo Burnham's comedy lyrics. The people rising in the streets, the war, the drought. The more I look, the more I see nothing to joke about. Is comedy over? Should I leave you alone? Because really, who's gonna go for joking at a time like this? Should I be joking at a time like this? Likewise, should I give attention to beauty at a time like this? It's 2012/2013, I think. I'm in studio critiques. I get the same question week after week. Why? The group gives a few positive notes on technique, but as usual, I feel myself fall short when I go to explain my connections to the work. This looks fine, but are you just trying to get a howdy-do-dah? What drives the art? What message is in it? How are you creating an experience for the viewer? What takeaway should they have? What takeaway did you have? They're right to ask these questions. Me not being able to answer was part of learning. Everything in the program was leading me to a senior thesis where I would eventually have a solid message and paint from a more personal place. I was encouraged to research my influences and their motives to better define my own roadmap for artistic development. Inevitably, I don't make the same art now that I did then, but even all these years later, I circulate the inquiries I faced because they're still asked of my work to this day. Defining your artist's voice is important to establishing creative identity in the field. Whether it's audience asking or the artist asking themselves, the questions are there every time I start a new art project and reach for my guiding values. My senior show artist statement described using water imagery to symbolize mortality and grief in a succinct and personally responsive way, but it also dealt with tragedy. Honoring memory stayed in my work as I continued relating to my loved one through painting nature as I imagined they saw it in life, but while that early adulthood experience with tragedy inspired me then, through more experience, I've begun craving optimism and hope like my happiness depends on it. For a lot of life, I've struggled to validate myself. I question myself fairly rigorously when I encounter pushback. And feedback is only as helpful as your ability to discern what is useful and not within it. Even taking constructive feedback considerably well can be done to a fault when you self-sacrifice to fit another's mold and lose sight of how you feel in your decisions. Self-validation feels like a critical life skill. Of all people, I ultimately have to rely on myself to weather life's journey and secure peace. If I can't validate my own needs, no one else can. If I had infinite time and resources, I'd make everything I could think of, but I don't. Part of getting the things I seek in life is sacrificing for them to satisfy the motives that ultimately fuel my art and life. I think pursuing beauty becomes pivotal in my artist story. At this point in my life, beauty isn't always on the forefront of my mind. It is a goal and a pursuit I'm actively involved in seeking. It fuels me because I've felt fear, hurt, anger, and despair so deeply. I thought for a time that meaning could only exist in tragedy because looking at beauty felt like ignoring and even being complicit in the world's injustices. It feels weird that this would be controversial, but I want to validate indulging in the beautiful things of life and upholding that for others. In my public projects, I want to uplift whoever I can. I think that for now, the best way I can do that is by uplifting the things that bring people together and providing as much encouragement as I can that people pursue and build things that bring them joy. I talked about it in a previous video on why artists need to make meaning, but I used to feel fairly nihilistic, and it wasn't until this man I'm painting pointed out to me that criticizing and tearing things down is easy, but building and embracing meaning takes creativity that I started coming out of it. Appreciating beauty when you're painfully aware of problems takes will. Sometimes people aren't ignoring things or unaware of them so much as they're trying to make the world a better place in the small ways that they can, because that can be a gift you give others. I think it can be painful to become educated on and aware of issues around you. Coming out of a fairly protected and naive worldview in my mid-20s, I felt impassioned to educate myself and advocate on behalf of issues I was previously blind to. But I did so without having a wider picture of discourses I was entering and the complicated socio-economic, political, emotional spaces they overlap, or why, despite tragedy, it's okay that there are still people creating and uplifting others, quietly getting through life the best they can. What is art is a question I'll ask and re-ask for all my days, but in this era I'm realizing I can take my own self-consciousness about caring for making beautiful things as a sign that my desires around it do matter, and that I can own the pieces of tragedy in my life that motivate me to pursue peace, wonder, beauty, and goodness despite it. I know that it's important to help others, to know your surroundings, to stand up for those who need support, but I also know that I can do all that in my life and make artwork that challenges me to find beauty in life around me and remain hopeful. Feeling pain is important, but so is rebuilding from it. In my life, it's felt vital. I've been self-conscious to rebuild, to hope for things like a loving family and wellness, but I'm working for it. Just like my paintings, I might not have the full vision of my life's work articulated yet, but I do think recognizing my major drives and validating them will allow me to actually develop the art and life I want. The most unique me version of those things is only available as I pursue it and embrace what joys inspire me to keep going. I'm likely in a phase that won't last forever. In fact, I hope it doesn't. But I appreciate what I'm trying to learn now, and I think that acknowledging it will leave me a clearer path to create the things that I'm made for. After my move, I'm gonna revamp my Patreon. There's a public video available, linked in the description, with move vlog footage and discussion of future plans. If you want to watch it, join as a free member or supporting member and leave feedback on the video. I'd appreciate any help informing how I can best serve you in that space. Thank you for watching, listening, have a wonderful day. Like, sub, find my Instagram or Patreon at Sealark, and art available at robinsealark.com. Bye!